time. No Russian. Strictly prohibited. Okay, so today is our meeting, seminar number 4, dedicated to the weapon. And this is the first weapon that you're going to get from me. First of all, let's have a little recap. So your home assignment, the other one, not the one that you didn't do, right? But the other one was to watch a movie in English, with English subtitles. So who did this actually? Hey! That's quite a few. Right, so what did you think about it?
About what?
About the, did you,
About watching movies?
any impressions, any comments you want to make?
I watched Notting Hill movie.
Which one?
Notting Hill.
No, I never heard of it, sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant.
Aww.
Romantic story.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice. How many times did you watch it in Russian before?
2 times.
That's good. That's a proper way to. Okay. So, did you learn anything new about the movie that you didn't know from the Russian?
Yes, about jokes.
Right. There you go. Okay, that's a very good feedback. Thank you. Tanya?
I watched the serial Firefly.
Which one?
Serial Firefly.
Firefly.
Yeah. And
I'm too old for this.
English and Firefly film movie in Russian.
Okay.
About translation, I see nothing, but voices.
Yeah.
The voices it was terribly wrong.
Yeah.
They change the sense of film.
So the dubbing really distorts the original voices, right? Okay, any other feedback? That's very good, thank you. Okay.
I watched series Sherlock in English, three episodes, 12 series of communication in English,
And 26 series of something else, yeah?
and Batman,
Which ones?
the episode with Joker.
Yeah, so the beginning. Oh, the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight.
Batman.
Right, right. What do you think?
Better than Russian. The impressions.
Yeah. The impression
The impression
is more complete.
is more complete.
Yeah, that's what probably you wanted to say. I agree fully, that's why I recommend.
Sorry for my wife.
Okay, there you go. He comes the man. So, thank you very much. For those of you, so it makes, what, like 30% of you actually did what I was asking. This is good. What is not good, that 70% didn't. And I really hope you would take more active stance and really follow the recommendation, because this comes from my personal experience and how I, one good kind of a game-changing event in my life was when I met a Croatian guy, a guy from Croatia, right? There's a small country. So there's Serbia and there's Croatia. In Russia it sounds totally different. And he was speaking perfect English, with American accent, but still perfect English, very good phrases, very good grammar, very good vocabulary. So I did approach him and asked, look, I couldn't help noticing you speak very good English, so what did you do to achieve this? And he said, I was watching English movie with English subtitles. Lots of them, lots and lots of them. Just picking up little things, picking up the phrases, the verbs, everything. So this happened to me 10 years ago, right? And since then I started doing this myself. And so I'm literally just giving this piece of knowledge to you. This is a very good way of learning, of mastering English. So we're not speaking about learning English per se, we're speaking about mastering it. What makes a difference between learning and mastering is that you're able to speak fluently and think fluently in English. But very important aspect of communication is writing. So today we're going to focus on a few things that might be of use for you. And I asked you a question, what do you want discussed? Nobody answered. which makes me a sad panda. Of course.
Why not? I asked.
You did.
Yes.
I offered something. So we're going to cover. We're going to start with emails, talk a little bit about CVs, and then papers, and then yeah, that is going to be it. So basically, let's start with emails. So I don't know if you can read it. But try. So let's start from easy things. Writing informal emails should be easy for you because you write a lot of emails in Russian. What I wanted to show by this is that typically informal emails in English are no different, especially when you're talking to your friend or your colleague. So this is a letter I'm going to send. I'm going to show my examples. It's the easiest way for me. But, so it starts with hi, or hello, or whatever. Hi Franz, hope life is treating you well. Some kind of general, greeting, not just hello there, and then you start, dumping all your stuff on the person. No, you have to say something friendly, right? To begin with something friendly. So, hope life is treating you well. The other comment that they typically make, I hope everything is good with you, or haven't talked with you since that time, and so on and so forth. So then, this is the important part. I didn't mark it anyway. It's just my personal related stuff about my PhD, about the fuzzy numbers, fuzzy regression analysis, and stuff. And here's the conclusion. So we'll be meeting with our personal friend tonight, blah blah blah. And you end with cheers. Typically, you don't use best wishes or. Well, you do use best wishes sometimes. Best wishes or good luck. Cheers is a kind of commonly accepted way of saying bye-bye. Boris, and there's a little PS. So, yeah, Tatiana is our mutual friend. So he got married to her a few months ago. I was working with her, sitting next desk to her. Okay. And this is the informal way. So you don't pay too much attention, on the personal status. You don't use too many complex, formal words. Now, let's look at the formal. I'm calling this a good formal email because, I think this is a good email. Doesn't mean that this is an ideal version of something. I'm just, going to cover the structure. So first thing is proper salutation. So you have to address the person in the way he wants to be addressed formally. And this is dear Mr. Rodriguez in this context. Okay? We use Mr. if a person has scientific background or some scientific accomplishment. Call him a doctor, professor, depends on the person, right? Mr. is this abbreviation, right? MR. Don't write Mr. Dear it's a perfectly valid way of addressing a person. Doesn't mean, treating him like a dear, my dear boy, my dear girl. It doesn't mean anything too personal or too informal. So it's like we say in Russian, dear respected someone, right? So the story behind this is I had to submit a 5-page document. I failed the deadline. So I'm starting with many apologies for formally failing the deadline imposed by the competition rules. So this is actually the Brazil letter. Now it was my request, blah 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 blah. So I'm making up an excuse, and it's very important to make a good excuse because poor excuse can reflect on your credibility. Do you know what the credibility is? How credible you are, how trustworthy you are. Right? So credibility is your, I read it down. Incredible is totally different. So, credibility. What's in it? What's the Russian for it?
Credit, trust.
Yeah.
Insurance and someone maybe.
Insurance is something, you can insure a car, but where you trust the person, you call him credible. That person credible. So when you can rely on someone, basically. Okay, now, so I didn't want to undermine my credibility, so I made up this excuse that my internet connection went down and it came back up just a few minutes ago. So I was pushing the refresh button in the browser, you know, all night long till the internet connection finally went up. So, and then you say something like, I trust this is not going to be an issue. So be reassuring, be confident, don't try to sound like you are unsure or you're uncertain or you are trying to, you know, so the person has to trust you. So you have to share, you have to say that you trust that this situation is not going to be an issue. Now, use standard expressions means that you typically try to use the expressions that are already kind of standard or widely accepted as, you know, way of saying certain things. So when you attach something to your email, like a document, you say please see attached or please see enclosed. Enclosed or attached is the same thing, right? Please see attached the 5-page submission to the competition in PDF. Okay. And then what you typically write at the end, some kind of follow-up. So you want the person to follow up on this one. Please notify me of further steps that might be required. Please notify me or please send me a message. Please don't hesitate to make any comments or suggest any improvements. Please be so kind to provide your feedback along these lines, right? The concluding statement is with best remarks. Well, remarks. Yeah, regards, of course. With best regards, or with kindest regards, with sincere, you know, you typically don't write yours sincerely, you know, yours sincerely, like you would if you were writing in the 18th century, 19th century, you would write yours sincerely, or sincerely yours, something like that. Today's accepted form is with best regards. And then you include your signature. So your name, your title, your institution, your email, your phone number if appropriate, and so on. So we have the structure, right? So dear Mr. Grigoriev, many apologies for formally failing me to submit the thesis for my PhD months ago. You go on. And then please see attached. Okay. Now, a few things that you have to be aware of is that. So this is a good email, in my opinion, personal opinion, because it doesn't have any errors or omissions. Now this one here is again me sending someone, and again the subject is about the same. So what I'm writing is, please accept my apologies for having failed to meet the deadline. And this is a typical thing about me because I've never submitted anything in time. So I always, you know, fail by 1 day, 2 days. My personal record is, I think, 5 months for sending something. Yeah, for Germany. But then we had very good relations with the person, so he kind of reminded me on a monthly basis, you have to send me the paper, you have to send me the paper. So I did finally, which is good. So good afternoon, and you see there's a spelling mistake here, right? So this was written in a hurry, obviously. I didn't check afternoon, right? It should be. Oh, you don't see it?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, you can see. I can see. So good afternoon, afternoon instead of afternoon. Please kindly accept my apologies. And this formula, please kindly do something, is very important and very widely used. So please kindly send me something. Right, there you go.
Can I answer one question?
Answer.
Could we use first of all instead of first off? Actually, I don't know what first off is it.
Same. It's
The same?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Is that it? Okay. So first off is you typically don't want to start your email with first off unless you're talking to someone you know personally. So first off is kind of informal with it. This is another reason why this email is not good as well. For having failed to meet the deadline for the abstract submission, I have registered blah 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 blah. Okay, please see the attached file. So typically you use please see attached the file adhering to it. So there's a mixture here. Yeah, also I'm sending to you a document constraining the abstract. So if you're talking about a particular document, you use the document. So there are a few mistakes here. Fortunately, the person who received the email was Russian, so it went unnoticed. And now, right, one of the things that you typically write, I would appreciate if you do something. Right? I would be very, there are analogs in Russian, obviously, but in English you use this form. I would appreciate if you could make an exception, consider, I would appreciate if you could reply to this email, or I would appreciate if you can notify me of acceptance of my plea, or something like that. Same thing with best regards, Boris, blah, 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 blah. Now, so in sending important communication or email, but in particular, leave yourself some time. Just don't do this in a rush. Sometimes it can be very critical. Check your spelling before sending, always. Install a spell checker. Google Chrome actually has this spell checker thing. But, I don't know why I didn't pay attention because I was in a hurry. And very important thing is the difference between a good email or communication or letter or whatever and the bad one is very subtle. So you wouldn't, you can't predict when a person will be able to see this as a bad email or a good email. So try always to achieve perfection in all your written communication, because unlike words, unlike your speech, this is something that stays with the person. So he can return to it and look at it again. Written communication is something that stays with the person, probably viewed later, potentially. Okay, this is it about the email stuff. Any questions on that? What I wanted to say is that you can see in all emails, formal or informal, there is this structure. There are proper indents between the lines, right? There is space between the lines. There is not too much text. I've never, I would never send, let me put it this way. So anything that is a wall of text is very hard to read, and it is very unlikely that the person will read it. A wall of text, this expression, wall of text, there is the same in Russian, right? So don't write walls of text. Try to break it into structure. So what do you do after you have sent an email? And a few hints, okay. Rather than what do you do after, let me just give you a few hints. So the first, you have to accept the fact that there are so many emails. Typically, what we're going to discuss next are the CVs, your resumes, right? So you have to accept the fact that the person who is receiving your email probably receives tens or maybe hundreds of emails per day. So he doesn't have to read through all the stuff that you've written there. So be precise, be concise, be on the topic. Write the most important thing first. So what do you want the person to do with this email? Right? So you write like, please accept my apologies, here's what you've asked, bye-bye, right? Now refer to previous communications. Typically, if you don't, if you are not sure that the person will immediately recognize you as someone he knows, refer to previous communications. So typically what they write is, what people write is, as per our discussion, right? As per, this, how this is spelled? As per our. As per our discussion last Friday, or as per our phone discussion, okay? So you make a reference to when you've met a person, or you've discussed something. So if you've reached an agreement that you will send a paper, or you send your introduction to a person, you refer to the point where you actually reach this agreement that you will send. Right? Just today I wrote an email to a guy whom I met briefly last week. So I'm sending, okay, it was a pleasure meeting you there and there. And as per our discussion, please see, my contact details below. So just to keep in contact. So always refer, so you have to build a rapport with this person. You have to build a history of relations so that he can identify you more easily, especially if he receives hundreds of emails every day. Now, this is somewhat vague, and this is my personal opinion again. Now, consider when the person will have the time to read your email. And typically, what happens in the office work on Mondays are overloaded because there's shitloads of stuff to do. In the upcoming week, everything has to be planned. Or another case is when people have a meeting first thing on Monday morning to plan the rest of the week. So Monday is typically not a good day to send emails. Fridays are not good for another reason. Because there's either too much stuff to be left to be done this week, or the person just doesn't care because he thinks it's the weekend approaching and he thinks about, pub tonight. What's that? Yeah, so Friday is when your mind is focused on something else, like today, for instance. Weekend. What happens over weekends is that if there are too many spam emails and too much all this stuff that kind of piles up over the weekend, like all the notifications, all the if a person is subscribed to some events or some journals, he receives too much of this, too many of these emails over the weekend. So when you're sending an email on Friday evening, you will be number 50 or number 80 in the list of his most recent emails on Monday. This is one of the reasons why you don't want to send it all weekend. Good time is Monday, Thursday, lunchtime. Why I'm saying lunchtime? Because when the person returns from lunch, he's typically more relaxed, and before he starts doing actual work, he typically scans through the emails he receives. Again, this is my personal opinion, this is how I did things. Or first thing in the morning. So before the job really starts, before you have to go talk to someone, half an hour to an hour, person goes through the emails he received overnight. So if you send an email late in the evening, it will be on top of the mailbox, and the person will be more likely to see it. Right? Does it make sense? This is my personal recommendation, take it as it is. Now, then, this in here, so you have to send, if you don't receive an answer that you were expecting to receive in proper time, just send a follow-up email. Right? Don't expect that the person will, remember that he received something a week ago. And don't think of the person as an asshole. Right? Typically, people don't reply to the emails not because they are assholes. It's because they have too much on their hands already. So don't think that people just ignore you. Just after a few days, send him another email. And again, don't be an asshole yourself. Don't expect the person to reply the next day or the same day, because this typically never happens, especially if you're sending something important. Unlike, if you're submitting an abstract and you are saying, please notify me that you have received this email, then an immediate answer is expected. Otherwise, if you're sending, okay, this is my CV, please consider it, please advise me on the next possible actions, don't expect to receive the answer the same day. It never happens. It will take a few days. Now, after a few days or a week, for instance, you can send a follow-up email just checking if I've sent you an email a week ago. I haven't received, it's not a good way. So I have sent you my CV a week ago. I would like to verify that you have received my email, and if any actions are required on my part. Right? So what I'm writing here is, so I sent a guy. Well, he's not a guy, he's a professor actually. And I'm addressing him as a doctor, which is a mistake, right? But I sent him an email, and within 1 month that happened. 1 month, right? So I'm writing to him, okay, I was just going to check if he received my email, because everything happens, you know, there are spam filters, all sorts of stuff that can prevent the person from receiving the email. If you have received my previous communication, I hate to bother you because I know you're very busy. Okay? This is the kind of pleasant way of saying that, okay, you know, you're making an excuse for him, right? Don't make a person feel like he is, you're blaming him for not reading your email. So you're making an excuse for him. I know you're a very busy person and I hate to bother you even more, right? So I appreciate, you know, I appreciate that you're very busy. But if you have some news, good or bad, please send me a note. So it doesn't oblige a person to send you, you know, long explanation. Just send me a note, okay? Yes, okay, everything is fine, I'm thinking about it. Or maybe I forgot about it. Okay, whatever. The application submission for the DAD, and this is about the DAD internship, by the way. Right? And then you add a sense of urgency. Right? So you want the person to react, to reply fast. Then you add a sense of urgency. You know what the urgency means? No? Okay. So something is urgent when you have to do it immediately, quickly, right? The urgency. And the adverb is, adjective is, what? Sorry. Adjective is urgent. So an urgent matter is something that has to be looked into immediately. Okay? You add a sense of urgency. So the deadline, the application submission is approaching fast. So we need to come up with a plan in the nearest future. Put kind of this time pressure on this. And then, with deepest regards, I like this one. With best regards, I used to write with respect when I worked at Schlumberger. I figured out it's not something that a person really understands if he doesn't have this cultural background. Because in the English communication you use with regards. Best regards, deepest regards, sincerest regards, most sincere, regards, and along these lines. Okay, so this is about following up, and make no mistake, follow-up is important. It's equally important as sending, because it also gives the person you're communicating with an impression that you are thinking about it. You didn't forget, it's important to you. So, any questions? So you're looking at me like, why are you telling us how to write emails? This is trivial stuff. It's not trivial, believe me, because many things fail because of badly written emails, especially when you're communicating with people abroad. You cannot just, take a phone and call him or her or whatever. You have to write something that will be read, and there will be some follow-up, there will be some action based on that. And don't be an asshole, don't keep egging on a person, just allow some time to process this information, because there's typically a pile. So what happens in fact, that he traveled to China without having a chance to, for a month, without having a chance to reply to me, anything really, because he was in a hurry. You are in a hurry sometimes, other people also can. Now, let's come to the next part. And I apologize in advance because I'm using some parts of the CVs that I didn't ask the permission from the authors to use. But hopefully they will take no offense. So, when writing CVs, just be aware that the first impression is very important. So, which of the CVs, which of them looks more appealing to you? There you go. Hello.
Hi, sorry.
Hello. Yes. Why?
It's your Russian word, I think.
Okay. Okay, so which CV do you like better? The one on the left or the one on the right? Just the first impression.
Right.
Left one.
Right.
Right one.
Second.
Why? The one Why do you like the second
Because
one?
of the picture or photo.
And
Okay.
there is a good division
Right.
between sections, I think.
There's good structure in it. So it's more,
It's more
it's
comfortable
easier
for
to,
you.
right. It's easier to understand, to structure it visually, and it's
Okay.
easier to focus on the parts that the reader is more interested in. Structure, what else?
Food is not good. I know. No, I mean not with no about this photo. About CV. If you don't need to use photo if employer didn't ask about it.
Right. What I found out on the web, there is hundreds and probably even thousands of different formats that you can use. So just to give you an example, let me Google this. Why I'm not showing you, why I'm not telling you exactly how to write a good CV, how to write a CV is because if you go and input here CV structure, and I tried this at home. So all sorts of various different CV structures, they're all good. It doesn't matter which one you choose. As long as I think I liked which one. Let's look at this one.
Where is it?
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with me. No, a CV. What? No way. Okay. No, I got it. Okay. So, very clear structure. Bold letters when you have to use them. For your name, there's a cell phone right underneath. And there is objective, professional qualifications, academic qualifications. Typically, if you have no work history, you would put your education at the top, obviously. Now, language proficiency, computer skills, and there's a structure, operating systems, office applications. So it's very structured, it's easy to see. If you're looking for a particular piece of, if you are a recruiter, right, and you're looking for a particular piece of information, it's very easy to locate it and see if it fits your requirements, right? Now, so this is very well structured. There's education, computer skills, awards, which is very important. If you have any awards, no, you know what's an award?
I understand.
You want to say? You want to explain why you're laughing?
I see. I'll see you after our lesson.
Right. Now, languages, professional, personal qualities, and a reference. So reference is something you put at the bottom as a person who can say a few good words about you. Right?
Recommendations.
It's called a reference. So this is someone who can verify this is actually true. This is not some kind of bullshit that you made up, right? A reference is some person whom a recruiter can call personally and ask, look, I've received a CV from Vasily Ivanov, right? And I want to see if you really recommend him to be employed. So a reference, if you can, indicate someone as a reference, it's a good point. The recruiter will not necessarily call this person. Depends on the job, depends on the position. But if you can indicate it, it's good. So someone who can verify your credibility. Okay? Now, there are a few funny things that people write in their emails. And again, apologies for those whose CVs I used without asking them their permission. I hope it's not obvious whose they are. So, first of all, try to use standard expressions. So this one, working in stress conditions, it's a direct copy from the Russian expression, right? Fast learning skill, exact copy. Fluency in English, and the rest is more or less fine. What it gets transformed, also is professional skills. Professional skills, I'm not entirely sure this is a widely accepted way of phrasing it. So, there are social skills and there are professional qualities. The qualities you possess as a worker. Possess, right? So social skills, fluency in English, same. Good interpersonal communication, which indicates you're able to, talk to like any person if he's not a complete asshole, of course. You were able to find a common language. Managing without authority, this is something not relevant here. Ability to endure stress conditions. You see this one? Working in stress situations. Ability to endure stress conditions. This is something a bit more specific and a bit more appropriate, I would say. And fast learning skill becomes steep learning curve. You know what's a learning curve? Yeah, well, exactly what you've shown, right? So a typical person shows, it's a curve basically showing how much information or how much knowledge you can absorb, how fast, right? Okay, now I put an image here. So you have here you have knowledge, here you have time. So a learning curve is something like that. So if there's 100% knowledge, this curve shows how much of that you are able to add to your to your knowledge. So steep learning curve goes like this. It's steep learning curve, right?
Improve your skills.
It's not only that you can improve your skills or you improve your knowledge, it's also how fast you can do this.
Okay.
Right? So this is a factor of time. Instead of saying you're a fast learner, you can say that you have a steep learning curve. And of course, if you put on your resume something like this, someone has to verify it. So put a reference there to your resume. Right? Okay. Now, please, by all means, try to avoid the words that you don't know or not sure of their exact meaning. So, let's consider this. Hobbies. Jogging, intercourse. Does anyone know what's an intercourse?
I know.
Anyone heard a sexual intercourse? So what was meant really is ability to communicate with people, right? But the word intercourse, when used in the context of sexual intercourse, actually means something entirely different. So you don't get it. Just look it up, okay? Intercourse. Right. So you can tell the others later. If you look, if you have your resume or your CV in Russian and then you translate it into English, just don't use the very first word that has this meaning. So it can be written as exactly this, right? Good interpersonal communication instead of intercourse. Try to resort to standard, widely accepted terms instead of putting on your resume something that the person is likely to misunderstand. Okay, so the objective: to obtain skills and experience in business direction and to be hired on vacation. So this is obviously an error. What is a vacation?
Rest.
It's when you take a few days off, right? Not rest, but when you go on vacation, when you go travel somewhere abroad, taking a leave from your work or from your studies. So
Leave your work.
hired on vacation, it meant actually, so the vacation was actually used instead of vacancy. Vacancy, is something that is vacant, something that can be occupied. So in Russian, well, not in Russian, the English term is position. So you want to take a position of someone. And in Russian, a position, in terms of work, means this. Right? So, to obtain skill and experience in business direction and to be hired as a, on such profile. So the vacation here is. So please verify that and make no mistake, your CV is very important. Because first of all, if it's not your native language. If it's not your native language, people will be judging your skill. And this is something that has to be perfected. Flawless, right?
Flawless victory.
Flawless victory, yeah. Has to be your flawless victory, exactly. If you're writing some words that you're not sure what they mean, do yourself a favor. Look them in the dictionary. And I don't mean English, Russian dictionary, like lingual or stuff like that. Go differentdictionary.com and put your words in there. And you will see that probably this is not something you wanted. This is not what you wanted to say. Oh, yeah. Missed a few letters here. I should be polishing CV, right? So first thing is about writing CVs, how it should look. So the general look and feel, the first impression is very important, right? And then when you're polishing your CV, make sure that you use as much widely accepted terms as possible, and make sure there are no hiccups like this, right? Hiccup, right? So when they say no hiccups, they literally mean there are no small mistakes or errors. Right. Any questions? Okay, so whoever wrote the CV? In English. In English. There you go. I should have known, right? Please, by all means, if you have any doubts, if you want me to look at it, I can do it once, just don't abuse it, right? I can look at your CVs once. Provide you feedback so that you will be able to do it in the future. Why is it important? Because if you're hired by an international company, or if you are traveling abroad, like to go on an internship with some international institution, you would have to provide your CV, your summary of your qualification, your research interest, or your professional experience, and so on. So this is important. And I wrote my CV, I rewrote my CV maybe 5 or 10 times, I don't know. You don't have to do it all the time if you're employed, but you have to update it. Now, we're done with this part, right? So I promise you to explain how to capitalize the titles. We are slowly approaching writing papers. This is going to be your final and ultimate home assignment, unless everybody ignores me again. The goal of this course is to explain and to teach you how to write good papers. And by good, I don't mean the content is good, I mean how it's structured and how it looks. So the titles are typically capitalized, and you've seen on all my slides I use these rules. So what are they? First of all, I have to capitalize all letters, all words with 4 or more letters. 4 or more. Also, you have to capitalize obviously the first letter. The letter, the title begins with. The last word of the title. And everything else except, and this is the funny part, conjunctions, and, or, but, not, yes, and so on. Articles, what an article is, obviously. Also short prepositions. Now, why does it say short prepositions here? What is a long preposition?
During.
Exactly. During. What else? About. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Meanwhile.
Meanwhile, without,
Nevertheless.
through. Nevertheless is not actually a preposition. It's I think it's an adverb. Maybe not. So, if it's with, by the way, with is the most obvious one. So with actually has 4 letters, right? And typically they put with capital W. The titles. So yeah, the final rule is a special rule for the words joined by hyphen. What's a hyphen? Anyone know?
No, no.
Hyphen is something you put to separate two parts of the word. There's a hyphen.
Oh, okay.
Two parts of the word. So if you use, for instance, if you are approaching the end of the line, you have to use a hyphen. Also, there are words that consist of several parts. So let me show you an example, and let's see who will be able to spot an error on this leg. So, what's wrong with these headings? Just wait for it. Obama offers health law fix, but its impact is unclear. Why? Why is it? Why is it wrong?
Low fix.
Include two letters.
It's one by one. It's yes, but if you paid attention, you only
It's
make
short preposition.
it's not a preposition. It's a verb. It's a verb, right?
Yes.
It's not an article. It's not a preposition. It's not a conjunction. Only conjunctions, articles, prepositions. Anything wrong with this still?
Low fix.
What's wrong with this?
Half right?
No. No. I'm not. No. Spelling is okay here. I'm all asking about the capitalization rules. Right? So everything is fine with this. So any. Is? It's. Again, it's not a preposition, not a conjunction, not an article. It's a. I don't remember how it's called in English. I'm sorry. It's he, she, it is. You capitalize them all. Huh? Anyway, fuzzy control of indoor temperature and illuminance. Any errors here? Off? Yeah, off this is correct. It's a preposition. And is a conjunction. The rest are nouns and adjectives.
Injured.
No, it's fine. So these two are fine actually. Now let's talk about this one. On correcting the intrusion of tracing non-deterministic problems by software. That's good, right? This is a preposition. This is a preposition. This is an article. What about on?
First letter.
Yeah, it's a first letter. Now, a user-friendly and extendable data distribution system. A user-friendly and extendable. Friendly. Yeah, I didn't make an emphasis on this one. So, special rules for words during play. I jumped out of this. So, if the first word, so there are two words. Let's say user-friendly. If the first word can't stand alone, a user, it can be used separately. Right? It can stand alone. The second word should be capitalized. If the first word cannot stand alone, which is the case with non-deterministic, so you cannot use non as a separate word, then you don't capitalize this. But you do capitalize this because a user can be used separately. Makes sense?
Yes.
Separate?
No, not okay. So if these two words, okay, so this is a user-friendly, it's a single word. And use a hyphen to indicate that this is a word consisting of multiple parts. So if the first part can be used separately, if it has its own meaning, then you capitalize the second word, right? If the first part doesn't have a separate meaning, non, you don't capitalize. So, who can find an error on this slide? Come on.
Wrong.
Yeah, there you go. Nice job. Yeah. You can notice everything but the obvious, right? Everything but the obvious. So the title of the slide is wrong. Okay, we're done with this part. Now, this is the I'm approaching the climax of this seminar. And so I'm going to talk a bit about writing the papers. And first and very obvious thing is when you are submitting an article to some journal, to some magazine, they typically have, you know, the guidelines for you, which say what font you should use, what font size, what are the margins, you know, what is the structure, how do you assign numbers to your tables, to your charts. So I'm going to show you this document right now instead of just trying to explain what it is. And this is a good document, actually. I like it a lot. I used it to submit to Springer. Springer, actually, it's German. Right. Okay, come on. Okay, so this document looks exactly like a paper should look. So, what do you think about the capitalization? Is it proper? Also guidelines for the preparation of contributions to Springer computer science procedures. And once again, for every journal they have their own guidelines. So make sure you check their guidelines before you submit anything. So typically you have a title which is slightly bigger than the rest of the text. Then you have names separated by commas. And then you list the institutions. So this is going to be different, you know, journal by journal. But typical rules are this. So you don't put like titles like professor or doctor, whatever, here. You just, you know, you can mention this in this. You can mention the titles in this part. Then, a very important part is an abstract. So this is actually very short, but as it says here, 70 to 150 words. So an abstract is a summary of what your paper is about. Sometimes it's 150 words max, sometimes it's 300 words, 200 words. This depends on the requirements of the organization. If it's a conference, whether it's conference, whether it's a paper that you submit to a journal, right? So this is also something that everybody will be able to see. Typically, full contents of your paper are not visible, not publicly, are not available online, but the abstract is. So make sure, double check, triple check everything right in the abstract. The abstract should be very good. And there is no like easy answer to how to write a good abstract, but typically this should reflect the paper and, you know, highlight the most relevant parts. Now, keywords is also something that is listed online, and keywords are used to search for your paper. Right? So your paper is found by keywords. If it's dealing with hydraulic fracturing, right? If it's dealing with the enterprise management systems, if it's dealing with synergetic analysis, everything, everything that's important needs to be put here. And they typically do not limit the number of keywords, but 10 or so keywords is a reasonable number. Then, okay, headings, it always starts with introduction. Always. In the introduction you describe the problem you're facing, or you're trying to solve. I'm telling you all this because you have to give me exactly this paper, written by you, yourselves, right? Relevant for your thesis. Right. So you have to write, proper title. Oh, proper title, proper abstract, proper keywords. Introduction, and maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. It depends on the, so this is, now it goes out of format, but how to prepare your paper. This is actually not an actual paper, you understand, right? This is not an actual paper, this is the guideline, how you should write a paper. So I'll show you an actual paper in a few minutes. Preparation structure in your paper is a very, very interesting what? It's a home assignment. Okay. I don't know what you're doing at home, but nobody has sent me anything so far. Makes me a sad panda. Okay, now this thing here talks about headings, okay? So what I just told you. Sorry? Yeah, headings, titles.
Only it's not titles, it's one.
That's the same. Here, in this context, it's the same. Title of a paper, but yeah, okay, this is a good question. So a title is something that your paper has, right? Title. But a heading is a title of this section. Okay? How you format your headings, blah blah blah, lemmas, prepositions, page numbering, okay? Now figures and tables, and typically, you know, in Russian as well, you put here like figure 1, figure 2, table 1, 2, 3, and so forth.
I did yesterday from philosophy.
Huh?
About philosophy. I did yesterday.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
Write special, write not name of picture. I write
The footnotes.
footnotes.
Rules how to make footnotes, and typically you know how many of you actually ever wrote a scientific paper. No bullshit, right? Have you written a paper?
Nobody has scientific degree.
No. You don't have to have a degree to write a paper. You know, submitting to the student conference. for
Yes,
instance.
I wrote it.
You're lying.
Okay.
I write English title.
I will
Guys.
don't
know anything, no? Oh, whoa. What up? Right, let's go, let's continue. So, also you have formulas typically, right? Now, blah blah blah, codes, citations, yeah, citations is very important. So at the end of your paper, you put two very important things. Well, you put a conclusion which kind of summarizes what you've said in your paper. So, and you know, people who typically, and this is also relevant for your diploma. What I'm saying right now is relevant for your diploma, because people will read the introduction and they read the conclusions. Most of them. But most of them don't, you know, have the time to read through all of your paper. Whoever, you know, submitted or defended their diplomas already know that, so they are not in an agreement, right? You have to focus on your introduction, on your conclusions. So last section is conclusions, then you have references. And the references, there are differences between the Russian and international versions of how you format the references, right? You have to check, you have to look at the rules of the particular journal, because there is I think over 100 different slight modifications of how this can be written. Also, again, if you didn't know, a website is a valid resource. It has to be put here along with the date when you've checked this website, actually. So if you refer to a website which has that has some information, you put there the date when you last visited. When you actually check that information is there.
Why date?
Huh?
Why date?
Date.
Date is...
Because it's electronic resource.
Can be changed easily.
No, the date when you visited it.
The date,
Verified.
yes. Appointment maybe, not date.
It's a date, it's a calendar date. It's a date.
Special date.
1st November 2013, when you actually went to this website and seen this information and copied and used some part of it.
Oh,
Date is not an appointment. It's not when you're dating a girl.
yes.
Right. No. Yes, but no. Okay, so let me show you an actual paper. Before doing that, so this link is going to be available for you. You should use it. There is also a... Yeah, never mind. It describes all the margins and size of your font that you should use and how to properly format the headings and so on and so forth. Now, adhere to the structure. Let me show you an actual paper so that you can get the sense of structure here. this one. This one is actually my paper, as you can imagine, obviously. But this is the paper that I was late submitting by 5 months. Okay, so here goes the title. Oil producing. Obviously, oil producing is capitalized because oil can be used separately. Well testing data by means of. This is something. You don't use this in your title typically, but I use it anyway because I like the way it looks. Now, so you see, you can make exceptions as you go.
I have a question. Why are you using paper? What's a paper? Not the article.
This is called the
paper,
paper.
No.
So there are okay.
Why paper?
That's a valid question. Let me answer this way. There are common meanings of words, but when you're talking about some domain, this is scientific domain. And this is called the paper. You submit your paper, not an article. An article is something.
For magazine, for newspaper.
No. Yes and no. An article at the same time is when you have, like in your store, you have hundreds of articles of different, in your store, hundreds of articles, different types of items. So this is an article as well. But typically, for the scientific, in the scientific world, they use the word paper. I don't know a particular reason for this, but this is this is the term that is used.
Supply.
Huh?
It's apply for
Supply?
people apply. Many people
So it's just common rules, let's put it this way. Now, okay, you put your name, obviously, and the name of your institution.
Very long extract.
This actually is 130 words, something like this. So 130 words look like this. Or maybe it's 150, I don't remember now. But, so you start by saying that present paper expands, well, what it is about. Then you continue, description of the contents. Then you put any specific results or achievements that you made here as well. And then, you just basically explain what you did, right? So you'll have to write this. Now the keywords, as you can see here, affirmation, fuzzy data, fuzzy plausibility, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? If I'm not mistaken here. Something like that, in the order of 10. So we use keywords. The introduction, obviously. Now, I have to say something specifically about the English papers, because typically, especially bigger journals, they have this requirement of, you have to actually put into your paper something that the other people can reproduce. Okay? So, in order to make your paper a valid paper in the Western mindset, you have to say what you did exactly to be able to obtain these results. And here's what I'm doing here. So an introduction is an introduction about an oil field industry, and there's field modeling, and then there is this well testing. It's a means of obtaining crucial parameters, blah 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 blah. So then I give an overview of the area. So this is the regression analysis. And then here comes the interesting bit. So all the formulas here, and you see numbering here as well. Definitions, formulas, all the functions, measure of similarity, here's how it's defined. Formulas. No? All the formulas that you need. I also have a few charts here, which is why it also makes a good paper. Oh yeah, and you can also see the references here. Okay? So it has all the necessary bits and pieces. Now, what else I didn't want to say? The formulas, clustering.
Page numbering.
Page numbering, typically if your paper is included in a bigger book, let's say, they will put numbers themselves, obviously. so you don't have to worry too much about the page numbering. But still, this is a requirement. Okay, now, okay, these are the pictures of figure 1. This is table 1. These are the tables with all the numbers that you can get. And here's the practical part. So, assumptions, results, more formulas. Oh, there you go. This is a beautiful one. Figure 2 and another table. Now, the conclusion here, you can see the concluding section is called obviously conclusions. Are you writing this down? Because you'll have to do this. Surprise! Sorry?
Question about our home assignment, about introduction and conclusion. Do I have to write it or not?
Of course.
Why?
Because
Only one page.
you're writing. No, it's not 1 page anymore. It's still 3 pages actually. You don't have to write. I'm putting this, 2 or 3 pages every single week there on the slide of home assignment. 1 page was for the first seminar. You missed it, I'm sorry, but this is the fact. Face it. Alright? So, introduction. Here's the problem, blah blah blah. We have discovered it. There is currently no solution for this. There is currently very complicated solution for that. So we are proposing an approach that follows, right? And then in the following chapters or following sections, you describe what you've done. And you conclude. So as shown or as demonstrated, we were able to reduce the time required for calculation from 2 hours to 2 minutes, for instance. So you put valid conclusions there, right? So here is, okay, we've defined this measure of plausibility, so maximizing the latest parameter values and blah 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 blah. So an example is provided that shows the capability. The following. An example is provided that shows the capability of the method to reproduce the approach, and then you conclude with this is what was achieved. And references. References is pretty easy, right? It's just 9 references. Okay, but you include them in the order in which they were mentioned. By the way, one very important thing about the references is that you don't have to do them manually. So this is done automatically in Word, 2007 and above. Okay? And the way it does the numbering is, okay, so I don't know how it's called in English, unfortunately, because I have a Russian version of Word for some reason at home. There's probably something like a reference or citations list, but basically you add books there, the name of the author, the title, the year, number of pages, or if it's a paper, you add a slightly different information, like the name of the title of the paper, the journal where it was published, what else? The pages of the paper. Right, and then when you insert a reference to this, or a reference to that particular page, it will appear as number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So the first paper that you mention here in your article automatically goes on the top of your list of references.
Why?
In Russia it's different. That's why I'm making this special, I'm paying special attention to this. In Russia it's different. There are different citation rules everywhere. Okay? So the first paper to appear here is in your, first reference to appear in your little tiny papers is going to be number 1. And then you have 1 through 9. So paper number 9 is obviously the one mentioned the latest, the last. Okay? Any questions?
If I were to do Russian, should I translate it?
That's a good question. Actually, as a matter of fact, you do translate the title, but here in parentheses you put in German or in your case in Russian. So This in German actually sounds like Einführung und Phase Methode, right? But I translated it into English. And I put here in parentheses that it's actually originally in German. The German. Okay? Now, yeah, the rest is easy. This is the book, this is a book. You guys right here how it's written, the title of the book, first edition, and then the publishing house, Elsevier in the Netherlands in the year. This is a paper, so lot fiascos are there. Generalized theory of uncertainty, blah blah blah. And then the title of the magazine, Computational Statistics in Data Analysis, number 51, pages 15 through 46, and the year. So you see that they're going to be different. But good news is that Word is going to take care about this. You might need to, just manually adjust a few things here, right? But it will output this list. Okay? Any questions?
No questions.
So, we have 2 weeks. That's a lot of time.
Alright,
Before the
To write two. Okay, let me make it as simple as possible. You have to write 3 pages. Okay, not 2 to 3, just 3. Okay. Now you have to use this format here, and you have your guidelines available on the web. Come on. Now you have to use this structure: title, name, university, email address, abstract. Pay attention about what you write in the abstract, because this has to be a summary, not the summary, not the introduction, not the conclusion. It has to be a full summary of the most relevant part. So actually the abstract should tell the reader why should he read it. Why would I read this paper? Because it explains, I don't care really. Outline and formula are also important, but the method outline and formula are provided, so you have to actually, as I said, you have to include some meat in your paper. It's when you read Russian papers, especially some of them, it's just blah 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 blah, and you cannot figure out anything from these papers. And on the other hand, like Evgenia knows, when you look at some scientific papers from the West, it has all the formulas, but they are written in a very, very abstract form sometimes. So you cannot really imagine how it works. So there are two kind of what? There are two poles, right? Not poles, but yeah, like South Pole and North Pole, okay, whatever. Try to be as specific as possible about what you write here. Keywords. Remember, this is how your page will be Googled, will be found.
keywords like text, yes?
Yes, exactly. But unlike like there's a word bubble, right? There's this concept when you have. Anyway, so word bubble is a different thing. Here you write concepts. So measure of plausibility, for instance. It's not a single word, but it's what I mean. It's a term. You can have a few words there. Preferably not more than 2, but I had to include some of the 3 words terms here. And then you write your introduction, where you explain that there's a huge problem that I'm going to solve. I'm going to show you how I solve it. Now, I'm the boss, okay? And now, you're the boss, right? You're the boss, you explain all this crap here. Easy, 3 pages. I do it for lunch, I do it the first thing in the morning, I write 3 pages. My mailbox is waiting for your 3 pages. It's easy. Just take whatever you, so assuming you know what your diploma title is going to be, right? As I said, your previous home assignment was to write one page document, then based on a paper that you found somewhere on the web, on your particular hydraulic fracturing or whatever. Right? So you, assuming you did this in time, now would have been able to put this 2-3 pages just by adding some of the details. But since you ignored it, you can now do the whole process in 2 weeks' time. That's a lot of time. You have, a weekend upcoming. So while this is still fresh, while this knowledge is still in your head, just go ahead, do yourself a favor, find the paper, read it, understand it. Boom. Then, take some quotes from there, put them on the page, and say, okay, so here's the problem that's still not solved, I'm going to solve it. And you don't have to be specific about how, because it's not your full diploma yet. You can write a lot, I know, and Ilya can write a lot.
Yes.
So the thing is to write it in English. This is a very good practice, I'm telling you. Especially if you're going to be translating something from Russian, you will see. Translation is another very important aspect of mastering English, the language. So this is going to stay with you. This link is going to be in the uploaded presentation later. Okay, so a few hints. The SWAT credibility. I already explained to you that this is an important thing because the person you're communicating with has to trust you. So, yeah, this is funny too. I like cooking my family and my pets. Cool. So, don't be a psycho, use commas, right? I like cooking, comma, my family and my pets. There's a picture, exactly this picture in Russian too. Now, so, errors of credibility key. So, pay special attention to the errors or the mistakes that you can make. Use a spell checker always. Check the dictionary if you're not sure about what the word is, if you're not aware of its meanings. Pay attention to English specifics, and this picture is actually relevant here because in English punctuation, like commas and semicolons and other punctuation marks are used differently, a bit different from Russian. Also check the articles. Make sure you understand how to use the articles. And also one very important thing is let me try to give you an example. So so what the Russians are using a lot is this kind of style. Let's call it style. System of education.
Education system.
Exactly. So if there is a situation, there's a lot of extra O's in Russian papers, in Russian translations. So the correct way is to write education system. Well, it's education now, right? Because this is in education. But otherwise, in Russian you say this. In English you say this. So when translating from Russian to English, make sure you get rid of all these offs. And sometimes there are hundreds of them in the paper. Right? If you take this was actually the first lesson that I learned when submitting the first paper to the German conference back in 2000. Right? The Russian tends to use this off preposition a lot, abusing it. In English, you don't see such constructions. Educational system is a good way. So pay attention to English specifics, and especially to Russian specifics that you tend to kind of take with you into the English domain, okay? Always give yourself enough time to double check, triple check everything that you're writing. This is very important, because if you miss something, you know what is seen cannot be unseen. So if a person reads your article, you know, he's made an impression. You cannot undo that. And if in doubt, if you have someone you trust, not necessarily me, right? I'm not saying you have to trust me either, but run your important communications with someone. Just make sure someone sees it. Because when you're working on a paper for a very long time, you tend to just, you know, completely miss the mistakes in the way. I told you it's going to be boring, right? The good thing, we're done. Any questions? 3 pages. Just remember, my mailbox is very hungry. Very hungry. So follow the general. The home assignment is to finalize your idea. Put this in writing, okay? Follow the general paper structure, right? Okay, just write 3 pages, okay? Just don't make it too complicated. Just 3 pages. And prepare to speak. There you go.
About 2 or 3 pages.
So your
Whichever, right?
topic of your paper has to be exactly what your diploma is about. If you don't know what your diploma is about, just this should still keep make you thinking about the title of your diploma. Find an interesting article. Start building on that. You know what your diploma is. You do.
Last question. About home assignments. Do you have to write our paper based on the one paper or
It doesn't matter.
does matter?
It can be any number of papers that you can find on hydraulic fracturing anywhere. You can reference also the website. You can, yes, the SPE website. Yes, the new one on hydraulic fracturing.
Maybe
If you don't know it, we're not beginning. We didn't finalize the title, your diploma theme. Do you know your diploma theme? You, yeah.
Me?
Yes.
I don't know exact I don't know the exact theme of my diploma, but I have some ideas.
No, don't laugh. This is a good point, a good starting point. So if you have ideas, just put them into writing. Okay. Now,
Only them, I think.
I think
still good.
Max
Still good.
can do free this home assignment for his idea, about his idea. And
Do what?
do free home assignment, which one of the
Free home assignment.
free home assignment.
There's no such thing as a free home assignment. Extra one.
One idea,
I
one
don't
home assignment. And we
So,
can choose.
but they at least, how do you prefer to be called? Jane or Eugene? Eugenia?
Eugenia?
No, I mean
Maybe Jane.
Jane. Okay.
J.
Jane and you?
Eugene.
Eugene. Eugene and Jane. That's good. Ah, finally. So if you at least you have papers, right? That you can extract the idea from. What about you? A good fella?
I've shown you the paper.
So where is it? Now?
At home.
At home. Yulia, I think you are still undecided. So make sure Monday you are decided. Artem? Artem.
I don't know my theme, but I have.
Your theme is expert systems in medicine. Okay?
This is
This is a big area.
this is white theme, but I want to.
Don't laugh, guys. Come on.
I want to.
Okay. Just keep
Understand.
thinking, right? Keep thinking. Just Everything you're doing so far is right. You cannot be wrong here. First of all, there is another half a year to your diploma, right? So anything you do will be useful. It's a way toward success.
Yes.
And yeah, Alexander. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. Okay, Monday. What about you? What about your diploma? What's your diploma title? Come on, everybody said already. You missed the speech.
So,
Is it it?
no.
Solo.
No pressure, no pressure. Just have you decided on the general direction?
Don't know how to.
Use your words.
Okay.
What's the area? Okay. I heard this. No, I didn't actually. Software, hardware, consulting, simulation, modeling, optimization.
Software.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good work. No, I think that's enough. Okay. No, okay, you have to think about it. You have to come up with this, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, everybody knows,
I will
but
find the time
still
to-
no
to
one
do it.
did shit to do this, right? So please,
Yeah.
take it seriously. Guys, I'm not kidding you. You have to take something from this course. So far you've just, there's in and out, as I explained, right? There are 2 years. Guys, if you want me to, stay friendly, just make sure you pay attention to this stuff. What? Okay, now, this is it, right? Bye-bye. See you later. Russian time.